There's no money in journalism. So I worked at Media 24 in Caxton. You guys would know like titles like True Love, Move, Heat, FHM, Grazia. I worked at all of those. The word was public, was supposed to be public.
Oh yeah?
But it printed as pubic.
I mean...
Because I'm old. Yeah, say it.
Yeah, I mean, because you're old.
I need to relook and reevaluate my life choices. Also, I just wanted to have a normal job. Like, I don't want to be working weekends and public holidays. I just needed that stable, like 8 to 4. But a Gen Z will challenge you and they'll say, no, but I'm not doing this. And, you know, I'm resigning because I just don't like the way you're doing things around here. And like they'll leave without a job. Yeah, and like the prizes are elaborate, hey? Yeah. They sent me and my husband to Zanzibar, 5-star, everything, like fully paid for. So I think if like you want to drive in the comms industry, you need to be a storyteller with superpowers. You're young, you don't need sleep.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Millennials Corner, where most of us are lost in a trance. Yes, sir. What do you do, Buffet 2? Welcome back to another exciting episode of TMC podcast. My name is Guy Luyanda. But okay, cool. Hold on. Listen to this very carefully. To deliver the highest quality result. And that is the same principle that Tam has actually built her more than 2 decades career span on. If it still doesn't make sense at this moment, please hang 10, because this is the onion that we will be peeling in this episode. And by the end of it, you should actually be feeling, super excited, inspired, and ready to face your dreams head on, right? So we will be chilling with the CEO of Mlk Communications. So if you're thinking Mlk Communication is like milk without an I, you can almost think about it on the same lines as MBO.
My name is Oscar MBO.
Mlk, like MLK. So, and I think another interesting thing about her was rather to learn that she's a strategic thinker and she loves processes of it. And over the years, she's like really been doing magic in the creative space. She has basically lived a life or walked a journey that many people could only dream of. You know what I mean? So yeah, stay tuned, because this is going to be a super powerful. But Tams, how do you do it? I mean, I'm there's so many things that I know that I haven't said about you.
Yeah.
And I just even wonder if we'll have enough time, but how do you do it?
I don't.
Okay.
I think if there are things that you prioritize in your life, you make time for it. I mean, it is a juggle.
Okay.
I've got a very supportive husband, which helps. But yeah, my days start very early, 5 a.m.
Nice.
And end very late. This is why I look sleepy.
Okay, I see. So that is on the surface, right? It feels like the walls are still up. And to break those walls, we are going to actually play a game called, they say it's an icebreaker, right? We call it underrated or overrated. So just a little bit about this game. This game was actually helped put together by Roy Manitu. And Roy Manitu is a range of effervescence wines. So if this is something that you feel you kind of like would be interested in or would, tickle your fancy, please scan the QR code on screen. So how we play the game, I am going to give you like one phrase. And then from this one phrase, not a phrase actually, it's a word. From this one word, you will tell us if it's underrated or overrated, right? Okay. So for example, I would say white sneakers. Mm-hmm. And you'd say, white sneakers are actually overrated because I live in a desert, and they are very hard to wash. So it's like, you tell me if it's underrated or overrated.
Okay.
Just one line explanation.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Got
ready
it.
to rock and roll?
Ready, let's go.
Let's break the ice. I have here the first one, podcast.
Hugh. Guys, I just said I'm a millennial, so... No, it is underrated. There's a lot of value in it.
Okay. All right, cool. The next one is fitness and wellness.
Oh, underrated.
Tell us more.
This is like your well-being, overall well-being, mental, physical, spiritual.
Online learning platforms.
Underrated. There's tons of them. There's so much you can learn. I'm a student for life, so I'm all about online learning.
South African rugby team, some call it Amabogobog.
Underrated.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, they get all of the glory, but
Okay.
I would still say underrated. They need more. Rugby brings South Africa together.
Yeah, for sure. It gives us so much joy, right?
Yeah.
Memes as a form, a way of communication.
Underrated. I love it.
Okay.
I don't talk to people. I just send them memes and they know, okay, she's thinking of me.
I see people do this a lot. Clickbait headlines.
Oh, underrated. No, let me change my mind.
Okay.
Let me say
Sure,
overrated. I think it is overrated. It is a nuisance.
I have the next one here. Influencer marketing.
That's hard. Overrated. I mean, I don't always trust what I see on social media.
Okay.
Generally, I'm just of the opinion that a lot of it is fake. They paid to do it, so.
Okay. Being a business owner.
Overrated.
Okay.
I mean, it comes with a lot of freedom, but freedom in your lifestyle, not freedom financially, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of long hours.
Let me actually put this here because I'd like to actually pick your brain on something related to this later in the conversation. Traditional news broadcasting.
Underrated, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a large generational gap between baby boomers, millennials, and Gen Zs, and the way we consume media is very different too. So the lack of magazines and newspapers has created almost like a lack of knowledge for the older generations versus like an online platform where Gen Zs and maybe younger millennials use.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Superhero movies.
Underrated.
Okay.
I am a huge Marvel fan.
Did you tell Mzizi this before?
No, I haven't.
Oh. Why would he even think about superhero movies?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe he thought it wasn't for me.
All right.
I probably don't look like it, but big fan.
Sure, tell me more about it.
So, no, I just got on board with it when the Avengers came out, and then I'm hooked. I watch everything.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite is Deadpool.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Remote working.
Underrated. There's so much value in having your own space to think and to be creative. And I feel like that flexibility allows people to live their lives while they're working, not just sit at a desk from 8 to 5, even if they have nothing to do.
Yeah. Chatbots for customer service.
What is the option outside of underrated and overrated?
I mean, you can't
Neutral.
be in the middle. You have to pick a side.
Neutral.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it is very frustrating
Yeah.
to have to answer to a chatbot when I want to speak to a person.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if it's something that I need really quickly, the chatbot is super helpful because I don't have to hold on. I just punch in my ID and then it gives me the info.
Okay. So in the middle.
Yeah.
Can we make an exception for you and in the middle?
Yes, you have to.
Amazing. Okay. So that is how we come to the end of our icebreaker. I hope you had fun because I absolutely enjoyed it. I really hope the ice is broken now.
Yeah.
I feel so much better.
A little bit of nerves.
Oh, okay, no, we'll be good. We'll be good. I mean, Tam, when I first encountered your work, I felt like you took a very big risk to move from a comfortable job and starting your own business.
Yeah.
And it got me wondering that, did you do this to chase peppers? Or did you do this to fulfill something that you felt like you weren't getting in the workplace or, in the 9-to-5 type of setup?
Yeah.
So basically what I'm asking is right now, do you do you feel like you are living in your purpose?
I don't want to say 100% that I am, but I'm getting there. I left corporate because it wasn't challenging enough. It was stifling my creativity in a big way. And I just felt like I had so much more to offer to brands from that perspective. So I went on my own. It's a bit of a sad story. I lost my mom last year, and she was very sick. And so I left corporate in 2022 to kind of have that time to spend with her, which I wouldn't get if I was in a 9-to-5 job. So I'm very glad that I did that. And then obviously that company had asked to contract with me, so that's what we've been doing. And yeah, in saying that though, I've been able to kind of hone my business to what I want it to be, not following a corporate regime of you can do this and you can't color outside of the lines, and you need to color in black and white. So I mean, my core purpose with communications is to be more human, is to tell a story, is to touch a soul, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I hear you talk about telling a story, and I can only imagine how lonely it might feel. Maybe lonely is not even the right word, but how hurtful it might be to lose a parent.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, I know this is off script, but I just want to touch on it a little bit. Like, what did you learn from that? And how did you feel when you first learned that, my mom has passed?
So there's a lot of things. And I think grief brings you a lot of perspective. Life is short. Life is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised. So if you don't take the risks and do the things that you want to do, you'll be lying on your deathbed and wishing that you did them. And you will forever live in regret. And so that is one of the reasons why I decided to jump ship.
Yeah. This actually gives me an idea that, everything else that happens around us, it's like what it is basically like perspective. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is, of course. But I think what has like a greater impact is how you view it. Absolutely. Right? Like I was having a conversation with my boss the other day, and I was like, I've realized that I've had like a change in perspective around my job now than I did before. Because before, I would actually, resent having to join a meeting, especially because I'm a remote worker. Sometimes I don't, look good to even open my camera. I just don't want to talk to people. I just want to keep my head down and work. And I told him that the change in how you phrase an action actually has a bigger impact, because instead of I realized that what changed my perspective from it being like a daunting, a tedious task that I didn't want to, engage in. I now started to look at it as I have an opportunity to join that meeting, as opposed to I have to join a meeting. Yeah. It feels more or less than an obligation, but an opportunity. That not a lot of people are granted. And I think that what teaches you is actually like gratitude.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think the power of positive thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we actually get lost in the fields, and talking about all the things that really touches the soul, let's bring it back on a lighter note to somebody who just heard about strategic communications for the first time. What would you say to them that is?
Yeah. And I have a rule that I live by, and I think I share that with MCs, is that whenever you write something and whenever you explain something, always treat it like you're speaking to a 5-year-old, because that really simplifies it. So I would say, if I were talking to a child, I would say, think of it like you want to start, you have this cool idea to start a new club at school. Yeah. So like a chess club or whatever the case is. And you want everyone to join this club. You want it to be successful. So you go in and you tell your friends about it, and you tell your teachers about it, and you tell your classmates about it. And it's the way in which you emphasize the importance of that club, and what joy it can bring you and what benefits it can bring you. And then you can go make posters, and you can, by word of mouth, tell your friends about it, and they will tell other people about it, and so the word spreads. Yeah. So ideally, it's the right message to the right people at the right time. Does that make sense?
It does. The right message to the right people at the right time. It does absolutely make sense to me. So that's basically like the strategy of communications. But obviously there's more that goes into knowing what is the right time, what is the right message.
Yes, but that's semantics. I mean, that you kind of have to do research on.
Yeah.
But the gist of it is that.
Now that we know what is it that you do, obviously there is some interesting background story to, how you came to be you. I mean, like, I remember I was just asking from Cece that, where is Tam from? He was like, I don't know. I know that she stays in Joburg,
Yeah, I do.
And I was like, oh, actually, I'm curious to know more about her. So if you could, like, for somebody who would like to know a little bit more about you, your upbringing, the kind of stuff that you drew inspiration from while growing up.
Sure.
How would you put that story? How would you communicate that
story? So, I'm a small town girl. So I'm from Durban, and I grew up there. I studied there, school there, and back then it was safe. We had a community of people that we could reach out to, and there was support always. As you can see, I'm a tomboy. Grew up a tomboy. I'm still a tomboy. And I have two brothers who are my best friends growing up, and we did everything together. So I'm talking about scaling fences, climbing trees, skateboarding on the streets. It was wild. And so outside of that, I just took a very much a liking to reading and writing, and I would write from a very young age, poetry. And I actually illustrated and created comics on my own. So like I created characters and I would draw them, not very well, but, and I did that for many years. And I think like my mom always said to me, you should be a children's book author, because I was just so good at it. And and that was basically it. I mean, outside of that, I had absolute love for music. I just, anything that was creative, I was there. I didn't grow up, in a wealthy home, so I had one doll, and I would find scraps of fabric in my mom's bin, and I would hand stitch clothing for my doll, and all my little cousins, girls, would ask me to design and create couture wear for their dolls. So yeah, I mean, I did it for free, but
it definitely feels like the creative bug bit you at a very young age, right?
Yes.
And you then decide to go and pursue a career in journalism.
Yeah.
And journalism, if I'm thinking about it, is like you go out there, you get people's stories, you write stories, and then you push them to the editor or the editorial team.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it was a kind of job where there was like too much creativity involved. What pushes you into that? Why did you decide that this is the right path? And how has it then evolved to becoming, like the strategy of communication?
Yeah. So funny enough, my parents hated the idea of me doing anything that was like publishing related, journalism included.
Because there was no money?
Yes. And I mean, it's stereotypical to say, but Indian parents, you have to be a doctor, lawyer, a CA. And that was just like too boring for me. I was like, I cannot see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
There's this guy, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's like, when I took, like my parents, they're like, there was like three things that you could do growing up. It could either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a nurse, right? So when I went and told my mom that, hey mom, I want to be a rapper, my mom was like, why do you love poverty so much?
My parents didn't right out say it, but that's exactly where they were. Yeah. And my dad was like, you better marry a rich husband. And, and it was a fight. But I chose journalism because there was no other option for me. There was nothing else that I could study where I could write, if you understand. Like back then, there was no publishing. So some of the courses that are offered now in degrees is so vast when it comes to media and even writing, that you could pick, choose, and refuse. Yeah. Back then, it was just journalism. Also, I'm a very curious person, yeah. So that also drew me to that field of study.
Sure. I mean, you've been in the game for such a long time, and there's things change as they've always.
Yeah.
have you kind of like picked up any noticeable change in how journalism is done today than how it was done previously?
Absolutely. And I mean, I haven't been a journalist for about 12 years or maybe longer.
Sure.
But a lot of the publishing houses that I worked at have closed. A lot of the magazines that I worked at no longer exist.
Yeah.
Newspapers are a thing of the past. I mean, there were days when we were younger, you couldn't even see the kid behind the paper. It was so big, and tons of news. And now it's like, because of social media and the way messages are spread so quickly, it's like in 2 seconds, everyone has the news. Mm-hmm. I mean, Praveen Gordon passed away. And not even 10 seconds later, we all had the news.
Sure.
Before, you'd have to wait for the next day newspaper to see what was going on because there was no other form of communication. So 100% journalism has changed. I also don't feel it's as ethical as it used to be. Facts are not checked. I'm not going out to site to meet this person and get the exact information. I'm trusting like a source. It's very different. I mean, back then we'd jump in our cars and drive to wherever we needed to go.
Also, speaking about journalism having changed and not being, hyper ethical, do you think that the modern age journalism has some sort of like, I would even put it as like maybe an infringement on human rights? Do you think we have so much regard, or is there enough conversation that's had around human rights when you think journalism and like spreading or telling the next big story?
I think it's there's a lack of consideration for sure, but at the same time it's people's lives that you're dealing with, and a lot of the time I want to touch on I was a crime and investigative journalist, believe it or not. So I used to go out to murder scenes and drug busts.
So it could have been the Tam Maharaj story by Tam Maharaj.
Guys, the police would pick me up. I'd have my bulletproof vest and I would go out for a story with my photographer. And, it was scary. But at the same time, I don't feel like that is what's happening now. Let's talk about kids as an example. There's so much abuse going on. And back then, we wouldn't talk about it because you want to protect the child and you want to protect the family, and then you think of bullying and whatever happens in the background. Now, I mean, they're sharing videos of what happened, and you can find it anywhere. There's just that lack of consideration, and that's what it is. It's like, what is the next best or big thing?
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to publish it.
And I think another thing that has actually diluted the credibility of modern day journalism is the speed at which people want to put out the next story. But anyways, tell me a little bit about the work that is done at publishing companies, right? Because I've never worked for a publishing company, and I've never met anyone who had before you. Okay. Believe me, this is the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not making it up. I haven't. Okay. So I was curious to kind of like, what happens behind those publishing companies?
So, can I touch on magazines? Because, I did do the crime and reporting stuff, but in a newspaper, it works very differently. It's daily, and then you kind of just have constant deadlines and you have to fill the newspaper. You've got this many pages, and if there's no advertising, you fill it with stories. In magazines, it's very different. So I just want to say that I left Durban in 2005 to come up to Joburg to work here because this was the hub of publishing. All the big media houses were here. So my dream was to work in fashion mags, but obviously, not everyone can have their dreams immediately. So when I came up here, I didn't have a job. And I eventually, after 3 months, got a job at a trade publication. So I was working in engineering and mining. And I mean, it is, but if you want to do fashion, this is not ideal. It's like the complete opposite to where I wanted to be. But in saying that...
I think what makes things cool is, the money that you stand to make in different spaces.
No, 100%. But I think, like you said earlier, there's no money in journalism. I don't know about now.
So it doesn't...
I'm talking about back then.
It's not even relative to the industry.
No. It's like standard across. It doesn't matter where you work.
Hectic, okay.
Yeah. So don't think, oh, engineering and mining. No. I'm just writing about it.
We're not engineers, we're still
a journalist. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I learned a lot doing that. And then after a few years, I moved into fashion mag. So I worked at Media 24 in Caxton. And you guys would know like titles like True Love, Move, Heat, FHM, Grazia.
Yeah.
So I worked at all of those.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in saying that, it is, publishing's busy.
Yeah.
I think it's for the young and restless. Like, if you don't have any other commitments, then that is the place to be. You learn so much. It's fast-paced, very deadline-driven. Yeah. So let's look at a weekly magazine. Monday, all the articles are in.
Yeah.
The copy editors, I was a copy editor. The copy editors would go through all of the copy. This is why I'm such a grammar Nazi. And you have to have such an eye for detail. You have to make sure the tone is correct, the right sources are quoted, there's no plagiarism.
Yeah.
And a lot of these articles came from overseas publications, so it had to be rewritten. And then it goes through like various checks, the editor signs it off, and then on a Thursday it would go for printing.
Yeah.
No, on a Wednesday roundabout it would go for printing. And then by Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, we'd have the fresh copy delivered to the office, and then you just start on the next one.
Yeah.
So there's no public holidays, long hours, early mornings, late nights.
Yeah.
Public holidays, you're working. It's rough, but it teaches you so much, and you have to be resilient.
Speaking of it being rough and very fast-paced, there's this stigma, I'm sure you're familiar with it, that in publication spaces or creative spaces where, it's like fast-paced, Coke is easily accessible. Like, everyone uses Coke just to stay awake. Is that true?
I don't know about that, but also maybe I was naive. I was very young.
As well. Yeah.
I did work at creative agencies, and I didn't experience it.
Okay.
Maybe it's a new gen thing.
All right.
Or maybe I was just naive.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't.
Okay, so you never actually, so you can't speak much on that.
I can't.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're in that space working, you don't tire out because there's just so much to do. You just like keep pushing, and when you're young, you don't need sleep. I mean, in your 20s, you can get
7 hours of sleep, man.
And trust me, I could like go to bed at about 4 and get up at 7 and be fine. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But because I'm old. Yeah, say it.
Yeah, because you're old.
Yes, fact. But it's I've never experienced it. Maybe people were, but I think back then too, it was drugs were unheard of.
It was such a taboo to actually.
It was, and also I don't think people would be walking around sharing that because you would be fired. Yeah.
Or maybe it's just what the TV used to show a lot.
Yeah, but now you're talking about like US type of vibes here. You're talking about Devil Wears Prada. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean, we had shows like that in SA, like your Chisas, your Cha-Chas.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure that went down.
Different light.
Yeah. I know at FHM.
Yeah.
The models used to.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I won't mention any names. But
no, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I
can't.
Don't incriminate nobody.
Yeah.
Because now the feds are going to come for you to say, where did you buy? Who's your supplier? Then
no.
But anyway, the second question around this, which I wanted to ask was, have you been in a situation where, like a piece of writing was approved with a spelling or grammar error? And you saw it after it was printed, and you were like, oh my God, what was the situation like?
Yes. It was at a fashion mag, and the word was supposed to be public.
Oh, yeah?
But it printed as pubic.
Oh,
and the thing is, the human eye fills in the blanks when you're reading. And after reading content for like days on end, there are things that slip through the cracks. I mean, one of the consumers that bought the magazine picked it up, a reader. None of us picked it up. It went through me, it went through another copy editor, it went through the editor. And it was signed off like that. So, I mean, there were a bunch of us that were responsible. But again, it was such a tiny thing. There were really no consequences. We laughed about it, but the thing is, the reader picked it up. So if she picked it up, hundreds of other people might have.
Yeah,
but we learned.
Sure. Yeah.
Never happened
At least
again.
Nobody lost their job from that.
No, just it never happened again.
Okay, cool. It feels like, during your time in publication, you were having a time of your life. You're enjoying it, and you now decide that, okay, Sharp, I'm going to move from, working for, the biggest publication companies in the world. I said in the world, guys, the biggest publications in the world, right?
Okay, let's go with it.
Okay, yeah,
okay.
So one of the biggest publications in the world to now winning awards in corporate communications. How do you decide to make that transition to say, okay, I'm done, I'm leaving this space, and now I'm going into corporate communications?
I think I had a moment. I don't think I ever really wanted to leave publishing, but I think I had a moment of reflection, and I thought to myself, I'm 30 now, and I need to relook and reevaluate my life choices. I can't be a journalist earning the salary, But also I had so much more to give. And at that point, I had just started doing my master's degree in communication science. And so I really wanted to apply what I was learning and strategy. Because remember, in corporate, which is very different to publishing, it's a lot of critical and analytical thinking. And I just wanted to apply my mind to that. Also, I just wanted to have a normal job. Like, I don't want to be working weekends and, public holidays. So I was tiring. I was old and tiring. Like, I just needed that stable, 8 to 4, and then,
Were you confident that you would find something that was...
I wasn't. And I have to say, I've been very lucky when it comes to employment. So when I made that decision to try, also I had no experience in corporate. So that was another challenge. But I found a job on PNet.
Okay.
Do you know PNet?
Yeah, I know PNet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I found a job on PNet.
I never found a job on PNet.
I saw this advert for Momentum. They were looking for a language practitioner / copy editor kind of thing, content creator.
Sure. But that was also a different lifetime, because today I think if you asked 100 millennials who are in jobs that how did you get your job, probably 50 to 60% would say via LinkedIn.
No, they would say via PNet. There was no LinkedIn back then.
No, I'm just saying that in this generation.
Oh, in this generation, 100%.
Today, LinkedIn is more popular than all the job portals. It feels like they are dying, the job portals.
They are, and believe it or not, we used to use the classified section of the newspaper.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm not even kidding. You look for a job in there, PNet was it for me, and then I applied, and a week later I got a call to say they would like to interview me. And so I went through, and 30 minutes after my interview they called me to say come through and do your assessments, and the next morning they told me I got the job. It was so quick. It was so quick, and I wasn't mentally ready for it.
Sure.
But I think it was good that I didn't have time to process. I resigned from publishing and I went into corporate. And
being in corporate, obviously, I think as much as we might not necessarily, our current might be better than our past, right? There's probably things that you felt during my time in publishing, I definitely missed, those Friday afternoons when we'd get booze, open bar, bottomless wines, we'd be drinking, those kind of things that if you move into corporate, you would miss about agency. So for you, when you got into corporate, what were the things that you were what, I absolutely missed that vibe about publication?
Yeah, that was just it. It was the vibe. Because, you could go into work in shorts and slops. You could wear whatever you wanted. It was a very casual environment. You start work at 9. You can pop out to the mall during the day. There were constantly celebrities in the office. It was just different. Corporate, on the other hand, It's like so structured. And it comes with a lot of like rules, you know. You need to dress formally to work. You get in, you have to be there on time, early. But in saying that, you know, you get used to it very quickly. There's no time to even transition. Yeah. It's just like go, go, go. And if you don't, you get left behind.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't even think I took any time to transition. It was just like, well, this is me now.
Yeah. At that time, you didn't have kids?
No, I didn't have kids. It was easier.
Yeah,
I mean, kids just throw a spanner in the works in life. So I at least didn't have to navigate that.
Yeah. Who gave you your first chance in corporate, like the company?
Momentum.
Oh, you worked at Momentum. You mentioned that actually.
Yeah.
Where am I? I'm still here.
You're still here.
I'm still here. Awards are cool, right? I just brought the term awards because like this was one of the things that popped out on your bios.
Yeah.
And you find most creatives actually chasing awards so much that if they do not attain them, it feels, especially in agencies, it starts to feel like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I shouldn't be in this place, you know. And then with corporate on the other side, it really doesn't. When you think corporate, you don't think about awards. You really think about a big salary, you know, a potential for career growth, you know what I mean? Yeah, but getting these awards, what does that mean for you in that space? I mean, you probably never, even when you applied your job, your dreams were not like, I also want to get awards in corporate communications, right? And now it happens. How do you receive that moment?
I know, it was very strange for me because, like you said, I didn't think that, first of all, there was such a thing. And second of all, that I would get it, you know. At Momentum, I won Employee of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because of a social media strategy that I had done. And and like the prizes are elaborate, hey? Yeah. They sent me and my husband to Zanzibar, 5-star, everything, like fully paid for like 5 or 6 days. And I mean, that is kind of like, it just cements and almost gives you that knowledge and almost that affirmation that what you're doing is valuable, and they value you.
In a long-term type of like career, do they have any significance? Like, is it important to chase them?
No. I think, you know, also I feel like it's very specific. Yeah. I mean, there were probably 100 other people doing amazing work, but they were probably looking for someone who did something different. And so that just happened to be me. Sure. So I don't feel like it devalues you if you don't get awarded for it. Yeah. Like the work that you do should always bring out the best in you. Yeah. And you should always strive and push for the best at everything that you do. And whether you're rewarded or not, internally, like you are rewarding yourself by doing that.
Well, actually, I think like getting awards, kind of like you said, is like, you know, it reaffirms that you are in the right place, you are valued here, and this is where you should be. But I guess what I wanted to get into was this social media strategy that you talk about.
Yeah.
What do you think you did differently about it to deserve an award?
So firstly, there wasn't one. There was not one.
There was no award?
There was no social media strategy, believe it or not. So the division, look at your face right now.
I'm so confused.
The division that I was in was a franchise kind of business model. Okay. And they are very old people. I'm old, they're very old. So you're looking at about 80% of them are baby boomers. Yeah. And we all know how baby boomers feel about digital technology. And so in my communication strategy, I identified the gap and I pitched it to the CEO, and he was like, no, go for it. Like, you have my full support. And so I went out throughout the country to all these franchises, and I rolled this thing out, and I said, you know, let's start with LinkedIn as your first, because that's a bit more professional. Sure. And they were all just like, no, we don't know how to use this thing. This is a waste of our time. And when I actually showed them the value in having that, They were able to reach out to their customers and clients on that platform and give them valuable content and write articles and thought leadership and, actually build a brand around their franchise.
Yeah.
And it just took off, and everyone was like, Tam, help me with this and help me with articles, and I need PR, and I need, and a lot of their LinkedIn exposure brought more clients on board. And so they were growing their database, they were getting more income, they were getting exposure, they were now famous, and they loved it. So it took off really well, and it did really well, and that is the reason why I won that award.
Do you still reflect back on that moment, like that work, and feel like this is my best work yet? Or you have actually done far much better things?
Yeah, I feel like I said, because it was different, it was new, and it brought about change in a generation that were very stuck in their ways. Yeah. But no, I don't. I feel like everything that I did, I can reflect on and say I did my best, and like I'm proud of the work that I did. But I wouldn't sometimes just sit and like admire my award and be like, wow, what a time.
It's big for me.
No.
Yeah, because it would never do the job for you, right?
Yeah.
And there's these people, I was talking to the other day, like there's people who in a meeting, they will yep, and talk. And you'll be so sure that, these ones are killing it.
Yeah.
But when they go back to do the work and then they come back, you actually find that the guy who's had nothing from my side to say in the entire meeting is the one who would actually deliver a better quality.
I love that. No, you're right.
Yeah.
So I am that person. I'm actually very much an introvert, and I don't speak up in meetings.
Sure.
Like I'd rather wait till after the meeting and I'll send an email. So I like writing, hence I did this. But I think traditionally, and my ex-boss at Momentum always said to me, Tam, you need to say something in meetings so people notice you.
Yeah.
You need to contribute. Even if it's something that someone else said, just say it in a different way. Yeah. And I thought to myself, but that's just not productive. And I always just maintained, if I have something valuable to add, I will. Otherwise, I don't need to say anything. If they don't notice me, that's fine too.
Yeah, sure.
But I see more and more now that is the quieter you are, the better you work. Yeah. Because you're a thinker, you're processing, and in that you are coming up with great ideas, and you might not add value in that meeting now. Yeah. But when you go away, you're going to have something amazing to share.
Sure.
And I think, now they're looking at leaders with higher EQ versus the IQ, which we had previously. Yeah. And I think that is where a lot of companies are realizing the benefit of having quiet thinkers versus loudmouths.
Yeah. Moving right along,
yes.
Swiftly right along. So, in my lifetime, I hear a lot of people preach, I want to leave my 9-to-5 and start a job. And I think that's the reason why today, in this day and age, we have more people leaving their jobs and starting their own businesses than in any lifetime, yes. Right? That's not backed by any stats. It's just like my observation.
No, but it is backed by stats.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I just don't have the stats.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, I don't. But I've read, I've seen a lot of content around it.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why people want to leave their 9-to-5s is because they want to work less. Mm-hmm. And for me, I really think that is like just a misconception, because when you become a business owner, you don't work, you switch from working 9-to-5 to working 24/7.
Yeah.
Right? And do you think like a lot of people are misleading when they say having your own business gives you more flexibility and freedom and more time on your hands? Do you think that is a good enough reason why people should go into starting their
businesses? Yeah. It's not the only reason.
Yeah.
It's very fulfilling. You don't have to answer to anyone. That's like my main reason. No, but in saying that, it really pushes you, it drives you. It's very rewarding because you know that whatever you've started is your own. Like you've built it from the ground up. It's all you.
Yeah.
And the perception of 9 to 5, not being fulfilling is not it though. It is a lot of hard work being your own boss, but you do have flexibility. I can just get up off my desk and say at 10:30, I feel like going to get my nails done, or I want to go for a run. You can't do that in the office. Absolutely. You have to wait until after 5, and then you're still stuck in traffic. You still have to wait like another hour. Here, you manage your own time according to your life. And that, I think for me, that was like a game changer, because I have so much time now to give to my son. Whereas when I was working, I missed a lot of milestones because I wasn't physically there. And now I have that. We can have conversations. He shares his day with me. During the COVID era, I would pick him up from school and I'd be in a meeting in my car driving home, and I'd be like, shh, don't speak, be quiet. And all he wanted to do was tell me about his day or tell me about what happened at school. And I'd just like, be quiet. And I could see that like sadness, and he'd just be like, okay, and sit quietly in the back seat. And it broke my heart to do that. And then when I get home, I'm like, sorry, I can't speak to you right now because I have to do this and I have a deadline. And then only at 5 o'clock. And by then he's so tired, he doesn't have the energy to want to interact with me. And I think for like a mom, it's just having that extra time with your kids, and then also just having being able to do whatever you want in the day, but still managing your workload.
I mean, is that like, what was your reason to start your own business? It really feels like you wanted more of that time with your family. You wanted to have control of your time instead of you adjusting to other people's time. You wanted it the other way around, where people have to adjust to your time. But is that like when you started your own business, Mlk Communication, like the milk without an I, MLK?
I'll tell you why.
Is that the only thing that you were looking for, right? And did you find it? Do you feel that you're in a good place?
Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot of work, but I really also don't like anyone telling me what to do. Stifling me, if I can say that. Like, I just really want to be creative. It's very frustrating when you are super creative and you're stuck in a box and like all you want to do is like change things up, but then you can't. You always met with like a wall, and I was just becoming frustrated because there's so much you could do. There's so much that I can do for this company. But you just don't want to change. And that is a big problem with companies these days. They're not open to change. You just want to do things the old way because you think it works, but it doesn't.
What you're saying about business being stuck in their ways, it feels like millennials too are also stuck in their ways, because if I'm in this place and you're not going to give me an opportunity to evolve or explore new things, I'm out of it. Like, I'm not going to stay for something that does not feel purposeful or aligned to where I want to get.
And that is the frustration. So you're a Gen Z, I'm assuming.
No. I'm a proud millennial. Later though.
So then you bought a Gen Z.
I also made it.
You almost didn't make it.
On the other end.
No, but and this is just, it's like that mindset that does not change. It does not falter. Like, if you come from that old school mindset of like, it works, so why must we change it? You are going to get stuck in a place where you're going to have no one working for you, or your turnover is going to be incredibly high, or you're not going to have clients because you're just not speaking to the right target audience in the right way. So it is that. And from a work perspective, I see it because I had a lot of Gen Zs reporting into me. They are very much independent thinkers. And if you tell them to do things a certain way, they don't like it. And so I made a comment earlier and I said Gen Z should be more like millennials, but I was kidding. It's actually fascinating to see that jump, because I feel like millennials, and I'm a millennial, are almost like yes men. Like, we just say yes. Like, we say yes to everything. A baby boomer will tell us, well, we're not changing this. And so we'll say, okay, and we carry on. But a Gen Z will challenge you and they'll say, no, but I'm not doing this. And, I'm resigning because I just don't like the way you're doing things around here. And like they'll leave without a job.
Yeah.
And like that is very like admirable. But in saying that, you also have to understand that we're working with 3 different generations in one place. And you're going to have that constant, like those battles. So for Gen Zs who think they are always right and have nothing to learn, that is completely wrong.
Yeah,
You have a lot to learn. And you can learn a lot from millennials and baby boomers, but just, the approach needs to be right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We were talking about your business, right? Why, what is it about? What do you guys do at Mlk Communications? Do you sell milk? Or
So,
what happened?
Let me tell you how I came up with the name. Can I tell you? So I was playing with a few names. I had like 3 or 4 and I just couldn't settle on one and nothing was just feeling fulfilling for me. Like it was like not purposeful. One of them was Pivot and Switched On Communications and I was just like, this is so boring and it's not me. And I'm a tea lover. And one day I was just making my cup of tea and I was busy with these names and I was pouring in my milk and I was like, Mlk. I was like, I'm going to call my company Mlk.
Yeah. and no I?
So because it's not about I, it's not about me, it's about us. So I dropped the I.
That's nice.
And the symbolism of milk is nourishment and nurturing and purity. And that is the first thing a newborn baby thrives on. It survives on milk. And any brand that needs to survive and thrive needs milk.
Perfect. That was so out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so out of the box. It feels like a name that, a Gen Z would come up with.
Wow.
Yeah, so it seems like you have learned a lot during your time with the Gen Zs. You learned a lot. And speaking about, spending a lot of time with Gen Zs, you're currently doing your PhD and working on research that involved interviewing Gen Zs, yes. Right? So what is it that you'd say you have learned in this time? Because and I'm bringing this up because earlier I asked you that, what advice would you have for the Gen Zs? You're like, they're not going to listen to me.
They're not. So I'm doing my PhD in strategic communication, but the content of my research is around consumer decision making of Gen Zs. So it's brand engagement analysis. So I kind of ascertain how they think when they interact with a brand, what they look out for, what are their likes, dislikes, what ticks them off, what doesn't. So I so far have collected research of 450 Gen Zs. The insights are extremely in-depth, but really it's how they think. It's how they consume media, how they consume brands, how they consume marketing, and what steps do they take before they make a decision to purchase a certain brand. And the insights are fascinating, which is why I say they will not listen, because they give a damn about anything or anyone. They're not brand loyal. You'd find me, I would stick to the same brand. If they did something horrible, I'd still stick with them. If they're not sustainably friendly, I'd still stick with them, It's just, because it's comfortable for me. Yeah. I know it, I've used it, and,
I've used the same bottle for the past 10 years. No.
Yeah. So, but with Gen Zs, no, they are like, well, you are not eco-friendly. You've cut down 100 trees, so no, we are canceling you. And, they very much I want it now. And I want it easy. If you have an online platform and now it's freezing, and it's 2 seconds, they're gone. Don't waste my time. So your brand, whatever you're offering, has to be on point or you've lost a customer. Yeah. Whereas with millennials and baby boomers, we are patient. Sure. The site is loading for 10 minutes, I will wait. I want that dress from this shop, so I will wait. Okay. But it's very fascinating because there's so many similarities between Gen X and Gen Y, but not with Gen Z. they are a completely different beast. And I can't wait for when I'm done with my PhD to share those insights with you guys. Because
so there's still classified information.
I can't right now.
But when you can, will you please do it here?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
I will. And you're going to be blown away. Yeah.
So, okay, Sharp spoke about your business, but I don't think I get a gist of what your business does. Did we
I don't know if we did.
You never really told me.
I do strategic communication. I do integrated marketing, PR, content creation. There is a bit of a design element. So really anything in the communication, marketing, creative space.
Yeah. So what kind of businesses do you work with?
So insurance companies, I've had agency, so they do Netflix and TikTok and that kind of thing. So I've worked with them. Engineering companies, tech companies, SAPs, software companies. I think, it really doesn't matter what the company is because the foundation of communications is the same across the board. It's just tweaking and refining those strategies to suit the various industries. So
I mean, if you think about all your competitors, right, and you think about how you are doing it differently, how would you actually justify a business leaving their current service provider to come to you? How would you say their experience is going to feel better, or how is it going to even be different from what you've currently seen across the space?
So I think it is a very tough market, and there are many micro agencies. I call myself a micro agency because I'm still very new and I've got a small client base. But in saying that, I'm also not marketing myself at all right now because I just want to finish PhD. But in saying that, I would say just the way in which I communicate, like I've got a lot of insights. And for me, my main focus for companies is on the future consumer. I call them the future consumer because Gen Z have just entered the workforce. And so they're only now just starting to earn an income and will eventually contribute to the economy. And so a lot of companies are missing that. They want to target Gen Zs, baby boomers, millennials, and alpha generations all with the same message, the same kind of tone of voice. It's not going to work. And so I bring that insights to say there's different generations and there's different ways to communicate with each one. And what does that future consumer look like? And how do you change your strategy to suit that?
I mean, you are actually preparing businesses for the future consumer, to speak to the future consumer.
And to survive.
For sure. But speaking of survival, right, and training businesses for the future, I wanted to talk about AI, right? AI has came into the game. It's changing it. It's crazy, right? And I'm not sure how far you have adopted it in your business or even how you work like a day to day. But would you say, since most people are even concerned about it stealing jobs, some are like it's creating new opportunities, how do you think AI is impacting our society and the workplace?
It's still very new, but in saying that, it's gaining momentum very quickly. I don't use AI in my business just purely because of the fact that I can spot AI content from a mile away. I can tell you if I read content that it was generated by AI. So in order to understand your target market and in order to understand the South African target market, which is very different to anywhere else in the world, you would need a human. You would need a people to write and to kind of get that, those nuances that South Africans have. Like, only we know that. People around the world don't get it. So all these AI bots and apps and whatever it is, they're all American. So they're giving you basic generic content. But I feel like it could never replace the human element. if you don't know how to use it and if you don't know how to integrate it into your life, because that's where we're headed.
Sure, for sure, absolutely.
Then of course you are going to be stuck in a space where you will be frustrated.
Yeah.
But it's about working together with it and just using it to enhance what you already have.
Yeah, I think our last guest actually put it in a very interesting way, and then he was like, with writing tools, AI writing tools, there is a culture that it does not capture. Like, for instance, if it hasn't been to Midrand, it hasn't been to places like your Soweto, so you can never really get it to imitate that cultural nuance that will make a reader actually feel like you are speaking to me, especially if they are like in those areas and not.
100%. And it's not a one size fits all.
Sure.
Because if I had to put into ChatGPT, like, write me this content for people who live in Midrand, ChatGPT is not going to know what I'm talking about, and we might want to talk about, I don't know, the Vonner Valley Spa or something. And then it's like AI is just not going to be able to get that message in. Yeah. And you just really want to be very specific with your target audience.
Sure, for sure. So don't you feel like you are actually getting left behind by not adapting your business to AI? Or is that one of your, differentiating propositions?
No. Maybe in the future I will. Yeah. But right now, just the work that I have doesn't require me to integrate AI into the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But if there is a requirement for it, I might in the future.
So, could you please answer this honestly? Right? It's a very simple question.
I've answered everything honestly.
No, okay. Did you make more money working in corporate or being a business owner?
Working in corporate. It's not about money.
It's not about
for
money.
now.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future I might make way more money than I make in corporate.
Plus you've said that you haven't been
I haven't been actively, for too long, right? But also I haven't been actively marketing my business at all.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm doing zero marketing on it. So
Okay. So this is not like a true reflection of the
where I could be. Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk in 5 years.
All right, I'll ask you the same question in 5 years, and I hope the answer is different.
Me too.
Yeah. I want to introduce you like, today we have a multi-billion.
Thank you. Manifest, yes.
We only have 5 minutes, so I just wanted to ask that, what's next for your business? Like, where are you taking it? I get that, like, right now it's been like chill, you haven't been doing much.
So when I'm done with PhD, I want to do more aggressive marketing, and I want to use whatever insights I've gained from the PhD to kind of push the focus of my business, which is the generational studies and the value that it adds from a communication and marketing perspective.
Amazing. I hope that happens.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. For somebody who wants to get into the strategic communications space, sorry if I'm rushing you, but the guy says, we don't have time, it's 5 minutes, so I'm also trying to wrap up. So for somebody who is considering strategic communications as a career, what advice would you give them?
So I think if you want to drive in the comms industry, you need to be a storyteller with superpowers. I'm going back to the Avengers reference we used earlier. But, you really just need to hone your skills, focus on your writing, focus on your research, network. The job is really about communicating, so meet people, listen to their stories, tell stories, share, and just be a creative superhouse.
Amazing stuff. I absolutely love to hear that. So there's this thing that they do also on TMC just before we close, where they give you a chance to ask the guest one question. This is impromptu, no hard questions. It's just like really easy on the surface. So take it on.
How was it for you interviewing the first female on the show?
It really feels like you've thought about this.
I didn't. You just literally asked me this now.
How was it for me? it didn't even feel like I was interviewing a female, really. It just felt like honestly, I don't want to lie about it. It feels like I was just having a conversation with somebody who's deeply knowledgeable in what they do. They've done some really amazing work and they're just here to share, you know. I would say that I feel super inspired, you know, and if for anyone you did kind of like recognize race and felt in some type of way that maybe the other race is, you know, smarter or even engaging than the other, I would say that I don't see those lines, because right now, it just felt like any other interview that I have done previously, and what I've taken from it, although it's different from each and every other episode, but it's super inspiring, and I think it does the same for anybody watching this episode.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I got you any day. You can ask me again and I'll say the same thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely love this episode. So, Afetu, this is how we come to the end of this episode with Tam Maharaj. I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's anything that I learned for myself today is don't give advice to the Gen Zs because they will not listen.
Yeah. Yes.
So, on that camera, you can actually talk to the followers, tell them, remind them to subscribe, tell them who you are, and yeah, just close it for us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Tam, CEO of Mlk Communications. It was awesome being on this show, on this episode. I'm sure there's going to be more amazing content coming.
Yeah.
TMC.
Sir.
Thank you.
The People's Podcast.
Yes. Yes, the People's Podcast.
Sam, thank you so much, man. Had a blast.
Awesome. Okay.